Good evening, everyone. How are we all? Hope everyone's well. Had a good weekend. Today we're doing something a little bit different. So I've got to do a reprint of this design this week. This was printed 2 years ago now, and the blocks were carved 2 years ago. When I was a lot less experienced. Hello, Wildstalk. How are you? So as you can see, it's hopefully you can see my standard of work. Hi, George. Has increased over the past 2 years, and there's quite a few areas on the print that need on the block set that need reworking and trimming and stuff. So if I zoom in, you can see up in here, around here, up in the top couple of blocks, there's some bits that need clearing out and reworking. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I hope it's not too boring for everyone. I'll explain it. I think it's quite an essential part of the process to sort of look back and assess what it is how your progress is, and how you can keep working on block sets to sort of improve them over time. So this is a test print from 2 years ago. This is one of Jed's designs. So what I'm going to do first off, I'm just going to take a pink marker, sorry, and I'm just going to circle the key areas where I'm going to want to be going back in and reworking parts. So we've got, maybe I should do this in black so I can see. So first of all, we've got these couple of areas on the robot. There's a small piece there, there. That small bit in there. This whole section in the top needs trimming back. You can see there's a little bit of blurriness down there, so I need to smooth that line out. And I went this isn't necessarily stuff that shows in the production batch that we did. This is just stuff now. This is a different type of paper that we were working on. The paper we now use, the Echizen Hosho, is a lot softer than this paper, so it's a lot more prone to picking up unwanted areas of pigment. So it's key when you change paper and things like that to sort of go back, and any areas that would have, especially a softer paper, any areas that would have picked up pigment on a harder type paper will most certainly be picking that up on a softer type of paper. So this is what we're working on for today. The block set is rather large for this print, actually. This behind me is the full block set. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks carved front and back. And as I said, these haven't been printed on for 2 years now. So just one at a time, I will go through the blocks and cross-reference with the print, and also sort of use my eye and a bit of common sense and intuition as to areas that I feel might need clearing out a bit deeper. So this print's, what is this? 14 faces and I think 20 something impressions to actually make the full print. So this was very, very much out of my league when I made it. So I'm not sure how long this is going to take me. But we will truck on. If anyone has any questions about anything, it's not really going to require too much zoomed in work here, so I'm probably going to leave the camera on a wider angle. But if anyone wants to see anything more, anything close up, then let me know. But let's sort of just use this as a nice sort of talking stream. Let's ask loads of questions and have a chat about things. And interestingly, this print was originally intended to be part of a Kickstarter series that me and Jed were going to put together when I first started working with him full time. And sort of part way through, so we produced this print, and then we sort of decided, well, we don't really need to kickstart anything. We can just work. We don't need to. We can just keep making prints and sort of work that way. We were sort of rushing a little bit to run before we could walk, I suppose, with it. And what I'm really looking for here is any sort of little peaks that would pick pigment up, or any corners that are not cleared away very well, and things like that. I am indeed, Nigel. That's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. So this print, it is this design was first carved and printed 2 years ago, and we now need a fresh batch. So I'm just cleaning up some of the blocks, some of the areas and stuff that were missed, and sort of making the blocks a bit more presentable, so that I can pull hopefully a better batch than this next time. I don't, George. Currently my eyes are just about good enough with glasses. I would assume that down the line I will end up in a similar situation to Dave, in that I will use a magnifier. I'm sort of in the very bad habit of, the finer the work, the closer I end up putting my head in towards the block, which is not great practice for my eyes. But yeah, currently I don't need a magnifier. So you can see here one big problem that I made when carving this particular block is we have this very large space here, and I could have in fact left a very fine ridge just to hold the middle of the paper up to allow me to, so the baron's not going to rock, and so the paper's not going to sag down into this area. So now I've got to make a strong mental note when I come to this block to not sort of print as fast as I normally would now. Back then, 2 years ago when I carved this block set, I didn't really know, and I just carved everything away. I sort of worked on the 3-finger rule each time, and so there's nothing that particularly stands out on this block. Just that small area there. The main areas are in the big flat sections, I think. So you can see here as well, what's very important is that you don't leave hard edges. You can see where there's sort of pigment caught on the edges here. That they're quite sharp and they need to be faded off a lot. So rather than a hard edge leading up to the uncarved area, you want a nice smooth slope. Yeah, I wear glasses all the time now. I started out having to have them for just reading and focusing on things, but then when you spend 90% of your day focusing and looking at things, you end up needing them all the time. Yeah, it can be. So, George, key blocks, especially where you've got black, can be maybe a little bit tricky if you're going in with a knife and things like that. I've got a very bright light here, so the sort of the light balance on the camera is sort of making it seem a little bit darker than what I'm seeing. And then I have my bulb light with my water flask in front that casts a nice shadow across. So I'm getting a nice sort of cross shadow on that back edge there, so it allows me to see those ridges and stuff. Then yeah, this is a power grip. It's very, very slightly curved. You can see it's very slight, and it is, what is it, an 18mm. And I just use it purely just to flatten out areas. It's nice and wide. Yeah, and I just use it just to flatten out areas after the initial hammering phase with this chisel. I'll come in and just sort of take the peaks and stuff off with this this power grip one. I'm not even sure. I got it years and years ago. But it served me very well. It's sort of starting to split up there. I need to tie a piece of cord around it or something. Yeah, I got it on Amazon, I think. And this is just a big flat gradation block. There's not really anything too untoward on here. I don't think. What's this? This just adds faint gradation to everything. So it doesn't look like, excuse me, it doesn't look like there's anything that needs to be carved away on this one. But yeah, Ben, this it was super cheap. Got it on Amazon, as I said. You can see here, I've made pencil marks where I want the gradient to finish. Yeah, so anything. So Michi Hamano, they'll have something like that. There'll be tons and tons like this. I don't know if you can even call it a U-gouge. I don't know how well you can see, but it's almost flat. It's got a very, very slight concave on it. It was really cheap. It's like £5 or something like that, £8 maybe. And I actually, interestingly, first few prints I made, I never used a hammer and chisel. I cleared away everything with this by hand because I just had no idea. So instead of hammer and chisel and clear all the depth and stuff away, I'd be spending days and days and days trying to pare it all away by hand. And these blocks need to be washed and cleaned off and stuff as well. I don't think I was using I don't think I was using very good quality pigments either. And this print took so long to get to any sort of state where we could be happy with it. If I were to work on it now, it would go by pretty smoothly, I feel. Anything on here? This is just the base tone. And another thing as well, I was using a ton of different random pigments. I really had no idea what pigments were any good, and obviously now all those blues I could just mix them with one or two different shades. So I can see up the inside of here, there's a small ridge that I haven't cleared off. So when you're working up to a small bit like this, especially along a straight, it's quite helpful to pare off below it and sort of take the depth away that you're comfortable with and then move up to it. Did I make my pigments for you? So some of the pigments that I use are pre-bought. For example, my indigo I buy from Japan, and that's traditionally made. All my pigments are traditionally made, so the indigo comes from the loose threads from indigo dyed fabric, and it's then sort of boiled and the condensation catches and recrystallizes back into a powdered form, and that requires quite a lot of grinding. Then I use a couple of different ochres and siennas and stuff, which are all natural pigments. Then the purple that I use is one called cochineal, and that's made with the cochineal beetle that I think lives on cactuses. It's like a desert cactus dwelling beetle. And my girlfriend Lucy, she is a illuminated manuscript painter, and she makes all of her own pigments, grinds them all by hand, and it's a very laborious process for her. But she's got a lot of knowledge about that type of thing, so she helped me to develop that purple pigment, and that is in fact the first time we'd used it is in this shade here on the old woman's cloak. And it can range from anything from this sort of bright magenta colour, depending on its consistency and sort of the density of the pigment. It can work all the way into sort of darker shades of like a grey purple colour, which I was going to show this at the end, but I can show now. If I can find it, where do I put it? So the newest Patreon design, which shipped out to everyone yesterday. This, in fact, uses that same cochineal, but in a different consistency and with a very small touch of indigo in, and you can see the difference that a pigment of that type can give. You've got this sort of bright magenta colour moving all the way into this sort of really pale greyish colour. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to making your own pigments if you have the ability to do so. It's not as scary and complicated as it seems. There's a lot of good tutorials out there. You just have to be, if you're making them for printmaking, you have to be quite mindful of the binders and additives that you put into them. This cochineal was made with soda ash. There are others that require different binders or an additive to it that can be harmful towards the paper. But this cochineal, it's really easy to make. You just crush the dried beetles up and stuff, and it takes a couple of days to sort of work out. Yeah, you're right, George. Anyone that is interested in learning more about pigments and seeing pigments being used in a proper way should follow Lucy on Instagram at Lucy Thomasin Morrish on Instagram. I'm not sure if she's watching, but if she is, if you are watching, Lucy, then link your Instagram in chat so everyone can go and follow you. But yeah, Lucy's the authority on pigments and pigment making. But yeah, this is the Patreon print. This was sent out to the first group of eligible Patreons yesterday, so it'll be with you within the week. And I think on Thursday, I'm really happy with this one actually. I think Thursday I've got a few designs that I feel would work well, and I will present them to you guys, and you can say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and we'll try and nail one down, because I need to get that planned out and ready. So there's a couple of areas in the bottom that need doing here. Ben, you should try and make some pigments with them if you've got access to them. So what I'm doing here is I can see a line, sort of a small ridge that hasn't been cleared away deep enough. So all I'm doing, I'm not using a lot of pressure, I'm just drawing the knife along the line to give me a little bit more depth to clear away, to sort of protect the underside of this borderline. The last thing I'd want to do now is chip it underneath and knock a piece of this line loose. And there's already a line that the knife is in, so it's just a case of drawing the knife along that line to sort of free up the ridge that I'm looking to clear off without cutting into the existing border. "13 viewers. We've broken our viewership record again. Thank you everyone that's watching me bumbling around with these blocks. Yeah, so any sort of fabric dyeing techniques will serve you very well with making your own pigments. Basically, you're looking to make with sort of magentas and things like that. So if you're looking to make cochineal, you'll find it under cochineal lake pigment, and that will give you the basic process of how to make it. There's ways to make them for dyeing, and then there's ways to make them for painting, and you're looking basically to create them in the same method as you would for traditional painting. Then there's yellows and things you can make, or yellows and oranges and things you can make with saffron and the flowers and things from saffron. But you just have to be mindful of how you use them, and certain ones like that, especially the ones that are made with flowers, are a lot less light fast than the mineral pigments, especially yellows. So if you're looking to make a yellow pigment from saffron or something like that, then you have to be very wary of the fact that if it is shown in sunlight, and in fact just over a period of time, it will fade out. That's why you see so many of these old prints have got such faded off colours. You'll see things like greens and yellows and things will fade off quite considerably, and also the skin tones and stuff will fade off a lot. Things that have like the vermilion or the cadmium pigments and stuff, they will stay fairly strong along with the blues, but generally yellows and greens and stuff, they will fade off quite fast, especially if they're presented in areas that are quite brightly lit with natural light. Then that will affect their luminosity for rather fast. Is there anything else on this block? I think that is it for this one. And I know this one needs some up in here. Good evening, Cabujiro. I hope I pronounced your name alright. Someone that works with and studies Japanese prints, my pronunciation is awful sometimes, so I do apologise. And at this point, the blocks are already carved, they're already ready. I'm not necessarily trying to make this look pretty, I'm trying to make it effective. So having a few gouge lines in there and things like that, it's not really gonna, there's not too much worry there. It's just getting rid of some of these areas where pigment could attach itself to the paper. We don't need to spend days doing this, it's just get it done and yeah, you're entirely correct, George. I know people that make prints in reproduction of what they currently look like, but to my mind, my personal taste, that's not a reproduction. That's not to say that anything that I do that I call a reproduction is in any way good or close to the original, but I much prefer to produce an image that, to the best of my ability, looks like it would have done when it was first produced. Otherwise you're just creating a replica of something that already exists. There's very few prints, old prints and stuff that exist now, that have the same strength of colour and luminosity that they would have done when they were created in the 1800s. So to me it's kind of fun, my own personal taste, it's kind of fun looking to sort of try and bring them back to life, sort of bring these old images back to life and try and sort of find out what they would have looked like when they were first made. And you can sort of do that with, if you have a sort of a reasonable knowledge of the pigments and things that were used at the time, then you can make fairly educated assumptions as to what that print would have looked like. So for example, the Great Wave and things like that, you've got indigos and Prussian blues in there, a darker indigo for the key block. In fact, it could have just been Prussian blue all the way through in varying shades, adding black or something to that. And you can sort of look at those late Hokusai prints and know that there was a lot of Prussian blue that was used at the time, because it was being brought into the country in quite large quantities, and it was sort of the vogue in pigment to be using. so that's sort of a good starting point to go from there. And then once all the French watercolours started coming in to Japan, and you start to see all these sort of really garish, horrible pinks and really sort of almost fluorescent yellows and things being used, they sort of got really excited by these new pigments and sort of used them in everything and created these sort of quite wild, vulgar prints. Yeah, so the museum ones, they're I would say generally a museum one has either been kept very, very well, or it's probably in fact a later version. It's very hard to determine the age of a print. I've got a couple of originals. One Hiroshige Surimono one that was made for a poetry club, and one I can't remember who it's by now, of the Sensoji Temple, and the Sensoji one. It's a really big print. I'll get it out at the end because it's a great print. I got it so cheap. I got it really, really, because I don't have the sort of money to be buying originals. Because it's got a really big pink stain of some sort right in the bottom, in the bottom of the print. So I got it for about, I think I got it for about $30 or something like that. It was really, really cheap. He did indeed, George. Yeah, Yoshitoshi liked a lot of blood in his scenes. He's such a great designer of prints. I really want to make some reproductions of his designs, but it's finding prints that are one that I'm able to actually print, because they've got some wild printing in them, and two, I think they'd end up just being too expensive, just in terms of the block count and stuff. Yeah, I'll get the two old prints I was talking about. I'll get them both out at the end of the stream in about 10 minutes or so, and I'll show them off. Yes, I did, Nigel. My apologies for not replying. I will reply to you. You can expect to receive a reply sometime tomorrow afternoon. I do apologise. I will get to you. So this is the main. There's not really too much of a key block for this print. This is really the block with the most amount of information for registering. Where did I get them? So I got some of my prints. There's a print shop in Oxford, about 30 minutes away from where I live, and they stock a ton of stuff, but a lot of it's very, very, very overpriced Shinhanga. Generally reproduction work, and they're sort of pricing it in the thousands, which is ridiculous. But what they do have, which I think are even more interesting, and no one else seems to think they're interesting, so they're priced at sort of £10 a print, is they have a lot of pages from old books. For example, I have a few pages that were cut out of the Hokusai manga, all originals and stuff, and I have two, and I'll show them as well because they're in the same folder, from a book that was produced of preparation sketches for his Views of Mount Fuji series, and they are really cool little prints. But other than that, Fuji Arts is a great online store in the US. They do a lot of they do a lot of discounted sort of auctions. They have a lot of stuff on like buy it now things. It's like basically like eBay for woodblock prints. They have some really cool more expensive stuff if your wallet is sort of feeling it. But they're really good. I like them. There's one Fagan something like that as well. Oh wow, Ben, keep hold of it. Keep it forever. Oh, sorry, Wassel. The shop's called Sanders, the one in Oxford, and the online one is Fuji Arts. In Vienna. Oh, that's great. But yeah, there's a lot of the print shops here in the UK. They're crazy overpriced, just ridiculous. But personally, I would say I'm obviously very biased towards that. But if you want to buy prints safe in the knowledge that they are going to be quality prints and you're going to receive them safe and get good value for your money, then Dave's flea market, the Mokuhankan flea market, is really, really great. They have great information on the background of the prints. They come safe. They're very, very reasonably priced. You will have to sort of get in there. When they announce something, get in there quick. But I would say for value of money, in comparison to the quality you get, then Dave's store, the Mokuhankan flea market, is one of the best places to go. Yeah, Nigel, I feel those book pages go so overlooked, and they're always really cheap, and they're always done. They're always good quality. I find that if you get the single pages, they always tend to be a lot better quality than a full book. Yeah, I do the same with Fuji, George. So yeah, I'll grab these couple of prints and I'll show them off for the last few minutes. Yeah, I agree. You always with Dave's Flea Market, you're always going to get great quality, and you're going to get good background on the prints. They will always get shipped safely. So this is a Hiroshige print. It's a Surimono. My girlfriend bought me this years and years and years ago. It's been cut. It was a lot longer. It was a reproduction of a scroll, and it sort of went all the way down here. But at some point in time, it's been chopped. It's been chopped up. But it's got. You can see the metallic pigment used in it still. This was produced what, 18? When was Hiroshige? So this is sort of 1860s, maybe. Yeah, 1860s. And you can see how amazing it is. The metallic pigment is still shining. The paper is still really strong. You can even see here, because this was a Surimono print, they sort of went a bit above and beyond, because they were commissioned pieces. They were commissioned by poetry groups and things like that. So they would even do things like, you can see there's a very, very, very faint, if I zoom in, you can see there's even a very faint gradation added to the characters, because when you're using a brush, it obviously starts very loaded up with pigment, and as you write more and more and more, the 1858. Okay, yeah. So it's even before that. See, my knowledge is terrible. I do apologise. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, when you're writing with the brush, it starts off very dark and gets paler and paler and paler as you're continuing along. And just look how nicely these characters are carved. And then you have the figure in here, and he's a little bit faded and old now. But you can see in comparison to my finger. How close can I get in? Look at the size of those hairs carved on that. And it's not just the carving, it's the skill in the printing to be able to print pigment that faintly. And you can see in here they've replicated the brush strokes and stuff that would have been on the original scroll. And it's so delicate and faint. And then in here there's so much to look at in this. I don't know how well you can see the embossing of the wood. This is the box that would have housed the scroll. Yeah, and they've even replicated the little tears and nicks and stuff that would have been in the scroll itself. And then what's really, really cool, and this shows just how strong this old paper is. Can you see a load of vertical lines across the back of the paper here? Where my finger is. If I zoom out slightly, here you go. So you see all these vertical lines here, and there's a little bit of pilling and stuff. But this is from the Baron rubbing. And this would have, to put those, if we compare this to, for example, my very poorly made, in comparison, Patreon print, and we take it out, you can see my paper is nice and flat and unblemished on the back, and that's very good. That's good. This is what you would like to see. No bleed through and nice smooth back of the paper. But it's also a testament to how cautious I am in terms of printing compared to the guy that printed this. He's got confidence in his tools and confidence in the paper that he's using, that he's really just absolutely ramming that Baron into the back of the paper and just digging the palm of his hand, this part of his hand, down into the paper to make sure that this impression here comes out nice and smooth as he wants it. And that's just a testament to how strong and how good this paper is. You see this paper's hundreds of years old, and it's still strong. It's still got body to it. It's wonderfully smooth, and this is one of the single greatest things about old Japanese prints, and the one thing that you could never do without in prints is the paper. Yeah, I could sit and look at the prints like this all day. Sorry, I'm not paying any attention to what the chat's saying. I'm sort of swooning over this old print. And then I'll show a couple of pages from the books and stuff. This is from. So this is 2 pages of a book that have at some point in its lifetime been stuck together. And this is from Hokusai's Book of Leaders. And this is a pretty wild print when you consider this was just 2 pages in a book that would have been discarded and would not really have had a lot of attention paid to it. And what's really odd about this is there's a lot of size still sitting on the paper. I don't know how well you can see, but it's sparkling. But just look at the carving on this print. As soon as I found this, this is sort of a goal of mine to reproduce this and to become a good enough carver that I can do this print justice. There's just so much taste and wonderful carving in these lines and replicating his brush strokes and things like that. So if I zoom in here and just these sections in the bottom, just the amount of work that goes in to not just popping out those little sections because it's small. Just because it's small doesn't necessarily mean it's more technical. It's just the taste that the carvers had in the lines. And again, the hair, look how fine the hair is in the beard and this figure here. And again, the printing and stuff is fantastic. And then we look on the side, on the reverse, and this paper's a lot thinner, tons and tons thinner, because it was for a book, so it didn't need to be anywhere near as thick as the Surimono print that I showed previously. But this is a big goal of mine to reproduce this print here. But yeah, I'll scan these and I'll put them up somewhere so people can see, because the carving work in this, I just sit sometimes and just look, and I try and study it, and I try and sort of I know the basic idea of how the carver did it, but just the skill and the technique and the confidence and stuff that guy had to carve those lines like that. And this one, I won't get this one out, I'll just show it. I reproduced this, I made a reproduction of this print a year ago, no, 2019, 2 years ago, of this section here, and it was for a New Year print. And this is cool. It's not crazy. It's just popping out. It looks more technical than it is. But yeah, that's a nice little print. That's from the Views of Mount Fuji book. And then here's a second one from that, so we can see again. This would be a really cool print to remake. I'd love to redo this. I've never done these cross sections of rain coming through here like that before in a print. That's a technique I'd love to learn. Being able to continue those lines and not have sort of little triangular corner stops in there. So that's it for that one. So we'll look at the big one now. We'll have to show it in sections, I think. Or these two. Oh, these are two cool old ones. These are both made using metal blocks for the key blocks. They were carved into wood and printed using a metal. Printed using metal cast. They would cast the key block into metal and then print with that. And these are really like sort of worthless. I saw them in an old antique shop and they were super cheap. And I think they're like old Kyoto tourist prints, judging by the fact that they've used Gofen, they've used white pigment and stuff in here. But yeah, they're kind of cool. But yes, so let's get the big boy out. And this print is original. It's from 1850s or whenever it was produced. And aside from the big pink stain and a slight crease in the bottom there, but we don't worry about that, it's a wonderfully made print. The colours have stayed, it's been really well kept, and it's just such a cool little design. It's one of the most famous images of Tokyo, of the gate in Asakusa. But the paper's really crazy thin. But just the work, the amount of work that had gone into printing this massive blue block here. And this is something, I'm definitely going to reproduce this. I've been sort of toying with the idea of producing it towards the winter of this year in smaller size. I can't get the blocks to carve anything of this size anymore, so it'd be down somewhere around this size. It's not a great reduction, but I just want to reproduce it just because it's one of my personal favourite prints. It's not wildly technical. There's very nice taste in the lines. They're very smooth. It's very well, obviously, very well carved and printed. But yeah, I got this it was like £30-40 or something like that when I bought it, because of this massive pink stain in there. But yeah, I love it. It's like one of my favourite views of Tokyo when I go there. I love sitting here. Well, this is all changed and stuff now, but you've got the pagoda in the background, and I love sitting here down in front of the temple when you're jet lagged at 4 in the morning, and listen to all the priests come out and do their morning, recite their morning prayers and stuff. Sit and have a green tea out of the vending machine next to the ancient temple. But yeah, that's just a selection of my small collection. I only really ever buy prints that I either want to reproduce one day or that I can try and learn something from. But this is something I definitely want to reproduce. I feel like I can maybe do it justice now. In terms of my ability to print, it's good enough quality that I can trace this by hand. I don't have to use a computer image. I can just trace. I can just put a sheet of paper down and trace over it. But yeah, so that's going to be it for excuse me. That's going to be it for this evening. Thank you everyone for joining. The artist, it's a Hiroshige, I think. Let me find. I do apologise. I'm absolutely awful at ever remembering who is it. For someone that does this as a job, you'd think I would know these types of things. Yeah, it was Hiroshige. My apologies. Hiroshige, and it was produced 1856. The design was created. But it's very. It doesn't come out too often. Look, you can see on the back this piece of paper has been abused in the printing. There's deep score marks all over the place, but it's how strong this paper is. Really, what you can put it through. But thank you everyone for sticking with me. The first part was maybe not quite as exciting. I've pretty much finished the block I was carving, the cloud block for the avatar print. So tomorrow I will be doing the clearing out and stuff on that. But Thursday I'm meeting with Laura Boswell to go through some of the logistics of this collaboration print that we're planning together. I'm scheduled to meet her at 2 p.m. So hopefully we'll work on the assumption that I will be back in time to stream on Thursday. I'm not sure what I will be streaming. It could be finishing off the avatar block, or it could be colour separations. I don't know. I'll figure something out. We'll at least get something done. But I'll post on Instagram and the Facebook group and stuff and let everyone know and confirm for certain. But thank you very much everyone for sticking with me, and thank you for showing an interest in this small print collection I have. It might not be the best quality, but I find them all very interesting. There's a nice little mix of things. But thank you very much everyone. I will see you all on Thursday. Take care and stay safe, and thank you again.